Hello Linux fans, Rob here and welcome to Linux Quest. So over the past few days I was reading over some of my Linux related Reddit links and came across one of the stories, and we've heard this one before, where there's a new user that comes into an Arch based help forum. This was specifically Arch based user help forum and asked a question and wound up getting snide remarks and wrote a post about how much of a jerk jerkish the different people were being inside this user help forum. And I get, both sides. One is the question could have been asked numerous times before. I don't know that for a fact. But on the flip side, there's no reason to be a jerk about things. And those are the kinds of stories where I read them and I'm just kind of disgusted. And, it's just like, come on, guys. It's aggravating, really. But again, I see both sides. But then I came to a story that I wanted to share with you today because this puts some new perspective, I think, and some light on some things about where Linux and GNU Linux comes into play and how it helps people. So I want to share this with you. It's titled My Personal Linux Story and a Thank You. And this is posted, or was posted 3 days ago by Uspell. So we'll jump right into it. I was talking to a friend earlier after we were talking about some early games we played and what kind of hardware we had back then. A flood of memories came crashing over me. I wanted to share that with you today for no real particular reason other than I feel thankful and I hope it'll do something for you. So he goes on to say, I grew up incredibly poor as the only child of a single mother who was a teacher's assistant, which pays squat here. Our very first computer was an Amiga. I'm not sure which exactly, perhaps a 1000 or a 2000. It was already kind of outdated back then, and it was a gift from a friend who owned a computer shop. It was stock he couldn't sell anymore. In the late 90s, however, is when my story with Linux began. A friend of the family from the US came over to visit, and he was a programmer working for IBM. Little me back then told him that I wanted to make video games later because I had played some games on an NES at a friend's house. He told me that if I wanted to do that, I would have to learn programming. Later, he would talk to my mother, offering to give us his IBM computer since he was going to be getting a ThinkPad soon anyway. And my mother agreed to pay for the overseas shipping cost, and a month or two later, a couple of massive boxes arrived at our house. Inside of it were the following: an IBM personal computer, 350, an assortment of floppy disks with software, a Linux distribution, and a C compiler, also a copy of K&R's C programming language book. The book had a note written inside it too. If you want to make games, you better begin early. The PC was pre-installed by him with the Linux distribution that was on the floppy disk. I think it was Yggdrasil, but I'm not sure, but I do know it was running Window Maker as the desktop environment, or at least something close to it. That gift changed my life. I'm a programmer these days and do indeed make small games in my spare time. Though my day job is much more boring than that, I grew up in a family where opportunities were rare and we barely got by. But thanks to his generosity, I stood a chance at making something of myself, rather than going outside in a crime-ridden neighborhood. But not just him, but all the developers who make the Linux kernel, GNU, and all the many projects I relied on. I was much too poor to afford things like Windows back then, and I didn't need to. Thanks to the free software movement, I was not only liberated in my freedoms, but it also gave opportunities to people like myself who didn't have many, and continues to open opportunities for many poor people to this day. Without GNU and Linux, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I'm not sure I'd like to know where I would be. Thank you. I just thought that was an awesome story to share, and it puts some perspective, I think, where we need it. Developers out there, I can understand where maybe it gets to a point where you just have no interest in continuing to develop what it is you're working on. Maybe your incentive isn't there, but to me, this is incentive. You are totally helping people. And this story illustrates that, I think, perfectly. This particular person here shared something that affected their life in a huge way. I think you could probably read into this that it totally changed this person's life. And as someone who makes videos related to Linux, it helped me think about the perspective of it's not easy for everyone to, maybe they don't have the internet bandwidth and multiple flash drives to hop on and download multiple ISOs and play around in distro hop. For some people out there who get access, maybe their data is limited and that they need their system not for play or fun or experimentation, but really to rely on and to help change their life. So it's much deeper, I think, sometimes than we give it credit to be. And so developers out there, specifically to you, what you're doing is tremendously appreciated. And, so I'll put a link to this in the video section. And then what I would love to hear from you folks watching is I'd love to hear your Linux story. Maybe you have a similar story to this person here. Maybe there are ways that Linux really did change your life or has helped you in some way that, Windows or Mac or other paid for software just couldn't do because of a monetary situation. So I'd love to hear your story, whatever it is. Look forward to that. And as always, thanks for watching.